Hey, it's Matt Haynes, and today I'm reviewing a wireless microphone system from Hollyland. It's called the Lark M2, and the most interesting thing about it probably is how tiny the transmitters are. They are really, really small. If you're looking for a wireless system that is discreet, it doesn't draw attention to itself, then the M2 system might be for you depending on how it sounds. Now, because these transmitters are so small, there's got to be something we're giving up in exchange, right? Well, we got to find out what that is. We got to hear how they sound. And I did happen to bring another wireless system out with me so you can compare, and we'll get to that near the end of the hike. Now, there is very little breeze today, although as I'm saying that right now, I can feel a breeze picking up. And whenever you have wireless microphones or any microphones outside, you always have to have a dead cat on, otherwise you run the risk of ruining your audio. So I'm gonna put the dead cat on. Now, when I put that dead cat on, the tiny form factor of these microphones is not so tiny anymore, because the dead cat actually goes around the entire microphone, covering it completely. And so now it looks like I've got kind of a furry tribble on my chest. There's actually 6 different versions or models of the Lark M2. You've got one made for iPhone, you've got one made for Android or USB-C, and those both have receivers that actually pop into the input of your phone. And those come in black, but you also have white versions, so that's 4. Then you have one that's made for cameras, and then you have one that's a combo unit that includes all of the cables, all of the phone adapters, and anything you could possibly want. The price does vary a little bit depending on which model or version you get, and it ranges from $140 US to $180 for the combo kit. And no matter which version you get the 2 tiny transmitters and a receiver unit. The primary way to use these transmitters is with a little magnet that clings to the back. So what you do is you put the magnet under your t-shirt or your clothes, and then the transmitter is attracted to that magnet, and it just kind of floats on the front of your clothing. However, there are some other ways to attach the transmitter, including there's a more traditional clip where you can clip it to a strap or a collar or like a button-down shirt. But the clip is detachable. It's also held to the transmitter with a magnet. And I found that the clips are actually really small. It's easier to clip the clip in place first and then attach the transmitter magnetically after you've put it in place. You also get these necklaces that have magnets on them too. So you can either wear it under your shirt, or, you know, if you're going topless or, you know, don't have anywhere to clip the magnet to, you can just wear it as a necklace and have the microphone suspended from your neck. All of the versions have a charging case as well, which seems to be becoming pretty standard with newer wireless systems. And you just pop them in the case, and the case has a battery in it, so it will charge them up for you. And this also has the benefit of just having to plug one thing in rather than 3 things. Now, one nice thing is that when you open the case and you take out the transmitters and receivers, they all turn themselves on and they're ready to go. And you do have a power button on all of them though, so you can turn them on and off manually if you need to. So I'm using the camera specific version of the Lark M2, and now it doesn't have those phone specific receiver units, but it does have cables, so you can plug the receiver into your phone if you need to use your phone for something. And also, it comes with a handy pouch to store everything. Now, I've taken the dead cat off temporarily, and the reason is because the Lark M2 has noise reduction and the buttons are located on the transmitters. However, you can't actually find the button when the dead cat is on. So I'm gonna turn on noise reduction now. Okay, so now we're listening to noise reduction. It is without the dead cat, so I'm not sure if the light breeze that's going on right now is going to be something that will interfere with that, but you can hear how the noise reduction sounds. And there's not a lot of noise in the background here. I mean, we've got birds chirping, my feet crunching on the grass, or not grass, but dirt. And but otherwise it's pretty quiet out here. Now let's turn that back off and get that dead cat back on the transmitter. So I've turned off noise reduction. I should point out though that noise reduction is turned on globally. So if you have 2 units working, You turn the noise reduction on for one, it turns it on for both of them. And the LED on the transmitter turns green to let you know it's turned on. Otherwise, it's blue. The only level adjustment you can do is located on the receiver, and it's actually a physical dial, which I haven't seen before. And the dial you can turn infinitely in either direction, but there's only 3 volume settings that you can send to your camera. So you've got low, medium, and high. You can't adjust the individual levels of the transmitters. So if you are using 2 transmitters, I highly recommend, if at all possible, to record in stereo mode rather than mono mode, because mono mode, and yes, this unit does have those 2 mode options. Mono mode is going to mix both of those signals together, and then you can't undo it. So if one person is louder than the other, you're stuck. So if you mix it in stereo, then you have separate microphones on left and right channels, and in your editing software, you can then adjust things properly. So as I mentioned before, there are 3 levels that you can adjust, and so there's 3 LEDs to tell you what your receiver level is. Now those are normally blue, but when you are in mono mode for the mode switch, they turn green. So green either means noise reduction on the transmitters, but it means mono versus stereo on the receiver. Now, interestingly, on the phone-specific versions of the Lark M2, you don't have a stereo option. You only have mono. So if you're using 2 transmitters, then that signal is going to get mixed together. So you got to be careful about your levels, about people not speaking louder than the other person, maybe the distance of the microphone to the mouth, etc., because you won't be able to undo it later. The transmitters are rated for about 10 hours of battery life, and the receiver, at least for the camera okay, so I've just lost my train of thought because I just walked by this woman, and about 10 feet past, she said, "Excuse me, help me. Do you know how to remove bee stingers?" And she'd just been stung by a bee. It was in her arm, so I removed it for her. And I've never had that happen on the trail before, and makes me think I need to be more careful because there are a lot of bees out here. So, oh yeah, I know what I was talking about. Transmitters and receivers. Now the transmitters their batteries are rated for about 10 hours of battery life. The receiver, at least for the camera version, is rated for 9 hours. And I say for the camera version because the phone-specific receivers, well, they run off the battery of your phone. So you just plug them in there and there's no built-in battery. So it's whenever your phone dies, that's when your receiver dies. Kind of picking my way down a steep part of the trail here, but the charging case, allegedly, it can charge everything up in 1.5 hours. So if you run out of juice, that's pretty fast. Hollyland claims that these microphones have a range of 300 meters or almost 1,000 feet, which is pretty insane. And also, why would you need that much range? But even if you don't need that much range, it tells you how strong the antennas are, because that's line of sight. That's if you got a direct line between you and the transmitter, or the receiver rather, and nothing in between. But if you turn around, of course, that all goes to heck. But the stronger the antenna, the stronger the signal, the better performance you're going to have, and the less likely you're going to have signal dropout. So I like that. Now, this doesn't apply to the camera version that I'm using, but if you're using a phone-specific version, you can hit the noise reduction button on your transmitter twice, and it will start your phone recording or stop it. I think that's pretty cool because you don't have to be anywhere near your phone to start recording. So as promised, you are now hearing the Rode Go2 wireless system, and I'm not going to compare these 2 microphone sets because they're not in the same league in terms of price or features or things like that. But you're probably familiar with how these sound so that you can compare and make some decisions about the Lark M2 sound quality as compared to the Rode. Now, normally at this point in the video, I would head back to the studio and I would tell you my thoughts on the product, but you know what? It is such a nice day today. I just can't stand the idea of being cooped up inside the studio. So you know what? I've headed to the park. It's been a few days since I did my initial test. I've had a chance to listen to the microphone. So the question is, for the Lark M2, what do I like? What don't I like? And should you buy them? Now, my biggest fear with the Lark M2 was that small size was going to interfere with sound quality, because, you know, physics does eventually start playing a role here. When you make microphones smaller, you can lose the low end, you can start having noise problems. But the good news is that the M2 system, I'm not hearing any noise issues whatsoever. They sound good. Now, yes, with a microphone this small, you are giving up some features, and I will talk about those in a moment. But in terms of sound quality, Hollyland is nailing it. Now, my biggest complaint with these microphones, well, is the dead cat. Now, the dead cats are doing a fine job of cutting down on wind noise, so that's not a problem. It's just they're so big. I mean, the idea of these microphones is they're tiny form factor, and you put that big fluff ball on them, and then they're 3 times the size. I mean, you can't even tell that there's a microphone underneath. So if you're planning on going all stealth mode, your cover's kind of blown because people are going to come up to you and say, hey, what's that small rodent doing on your shirt? In fact, that dead cat covers up the noise reduction button, it covers up the indicator LED, and you can't even tell if the microphone is pointing in the right direction. And there's also a risk of accidentally turning on noise reduction as you're putting on the dead cat, and you might not know it. In fact, when I set up the camera just now, I turned on the other transmitter just to check the noise reduction status. So that's a little bit of an issue. And the thing is, you need a dead cat if you're working with these outside. Rewind in this video, go back to the part where I take the dead cat off right before I turn the noise reduction on. You can actually hear the wind starting to cause trouble with these microphones. You gotta have the dead cat. But the dead cat is so much bigger than the microphone. I feel like they could have come up with a different solution. Maybe something that was magnetic and just covered up the microphone part of the transmitter rather than the whole thing. So let's talk about some of the competition, some of the other microphone sets I've reviewed recently that are in the same price range. For example, there's the Saramonic Blink 500 B2 Plus, and it has a couple of features that the Lark system doesn't have. Like, for example, it's got 2 levels of noise reduction, and it also has a high pass filter. Actually, it has 2 settings on the high pass filter so that you can roll off the low end if you're getting some rumble. Oh, hi, puppy. Hi, how are you? You want to be in my video? And another set I reviewed, the Neewer CM28, has built-in recording on each transmitter, and that's also in the same price range. But both of those systems have relatively large transmitters that you'll find difficult to hide on your shirt. They're going to weigh a little more, they're going to make your shirt sag, and you can't just like tuck them under a collar out of the way. So if you're looking for maximum stealth and you don't like the look of a big microphone dangling from your shirt, then the Lark M2 system is a winner. Yes, you do have to give up some features for that small size, but what you don't give up is good sound.